What is up, YouTube? That's here today. I'm super excited to be bringing you guys a brand new series on this channel, one that I think will revolutionize the way the competitive Pokemon is taught on YouTube, at least on this channel. What we're going to be doing is building two completely different teams from scratch. That means going over the EVs, going over all the roles for all the teammates, going over and explaining the meta and the usage stats so you can understand what items to put on these Pokemon, and maybe even a little bit of flowcharting so you can understand how to play these teams. We'll also be playing some of these teams in some test games on Showdown as well, so you guys can understand how these teams have to play to suit this specific playstyle based around the Pokemon that we're building around. Today we're actually going to be building around Cinderace, so I plan on building one VGC team for Cinderace and one singles team, specifically Battle Stadium singles team for Cinderace. And the whole point of this is to get you guys to understand there's so many things to learn from each format. Cinderace can be played a completely different way in both singles and doubles, and by understanding both of those playstyles, hopefully you can combine them to find a whole unique playstyle that's all your own in your own team building journeys and just become better players as a result. If this sounds like something that's fun or interesting for you, let me know in the comments, but I think this is a really, really good exercise for learning how to develop your own team building skills as a player. Now, Cinderace is a really, really cool mon because it can be done so many different things with it. It has the Libero ability. Let's just take a look at the Cinderace right here. So, right here, go to check summary on this guy. Really, really good Pokemon, Libero. So this Pokemon's type changes to the type of the moves it's about to use. This only works once each time, so it's a little bit nerfed since Sword and Shield. But basically, it has the same effect as like Protein from like Greninja and stuff like that. So you can become a fighting type if you use a fighting move, a flying type if you use a flying move. And what this allows is that it allows you to get a secondary stab on those moves. So as far as like physical sweepers, Cinderace is really, really good. It also gets a few unique moves. It's one of the few Pokemons in the game that gets multiple unique moves, being Pyro Ball, which is a 120 big damaging move if you want to go for it, or even Court Change in singles to be able to swap hazards. So Cinderace is like a Swiss Army knife, jack of all trades, master of actually still a fuse. It's actually a pretty good Pokemon. So if you want to see some team building guides around Cinderace, sit back, max, relax, and let's just hop right into it. And I will say at the very end of this series, what we're going to do is we're going to compare the two teams and see which one we actually think suits Cinderace's playstyle the best. So if you're a fan of Cinderace and you want to use Cinderace to its fullest potential, stick around to the end to where we decide, is Cinderace better in singles or is Cinderace better in doubles? So let's just get right into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Showdown. And we're going to be doing VGC first since I think a lot of you guys want to see the VGC content. So the first thing I like to do when I get into my team builder is just fill out all 6 Pokemon. You know, I think there are some situations where you might want to say, well, I want to use Cinderace with like Sash, and I want to use it with Protect, and I want to use it with like Sucker Punch and, High Jump Kick if I can type, and like Pyro Ball. And I want my EV spread to be something like this. And you can totally do stuff like this, and there's nothing really wrong with it. And I think as far as like beginners going, this is great. This is totally a fine Cinderace set. But what you're doing when you lock yourself into something like this, you're saying, cool, if my Focus Sash is right here, none of the other Pokemon I can use a Focus Sash. So it might really lock me up and make it so when I'm trying to tackle the meta based off things like usage stats over here, that Focus Sash might be better off used on other popular Pokemon. Things like, Fluttermane, one of its most common items is a Focus Sash. Things like Urshifu, one of its most common items is a Focus Sash. And so you don't want to lock yourself out of like other playstyles. So that's why I always like to just leave things blank. You can even leave like abilities blank for the most part too. There are situations where sometimes, it's not going to be here, but like Blaze might be sometimes a good ability on like a Focus Sash variant that uses like maybe like an Endure set or something with like that. Or maybe, for example, like just throwing this out here, there was a format back in Sword and Shield where I used a Charizard, right? And most people when they think of Charizard, they think of like solar power. It was like a cool G-Max Charizard. But in reality, this Charizard was Blaze with like a Walk-in Berry, and it was like super bulk oriented to be able to correctly wall Zacian, because Charizard's fire flying typing blocks Zacian's steel and fairy typing. And it also covered up the fact that Zacian could use Sacred Sword as well. So it was better at walling Zacian than other fire types in the meta. So, and we didn't want to take sun damage from the solar power, so it was just better off being Blaze in that situation. So anyways, never just say you have to use something from the start. You can always go back and fill that stuff in after you add a few members to your team. So that being said, what do we want to do with Cinderace? The best idea when you don't know anything about a Pokemon, you just see what they look like, and you're like, I want to use that. That thing's cool. You want to go and take a look at its base stats. So Cinderace has an 80 base HP, which is pretty good. It's more of like a glass cannon, I would say, but it has high speed and high attack. It can be built adamant to be a little bit stronger. It can be built jolly to still be able to outspeed base 110s and 115s, which are pretty popular. You usually want to take a look at your speed tiers for the format whenever you're building around like this. So we're going around here. Cinderace outspeeds all of these things, which are very good. Some of these Pokemon are still pretty popular. Things like Azelf, Iron Valiant. You don't see them that often, but you definitely see things like Lycanroc, Mousehold, Screamtail, Thundurus, Tornadus. You definitely see these sort of things. You want to make sure you're still outspeeding these, so we're still probably going to have to be jolly on our Cinderace, but we don't need to be full speed because it's very uncommon that we're going to fight like a full-speed Roaring Moon or a Hawlucha or a Salazzle. We can actually just let those matchups go by, and if anything, we force our opponents to respect the fact that we could outspeed them. We can use that for like bluffs and stuff later on. So just knowing that, we want to surround Cinderace with Pokemon that highlight its uniqueness. Again, we have the Libero ability, so all of our moves, we're going to be able to change our type to add additional stab, which is the same type attack bonus, to make our moves even stronger. So if we want to use like Sucker Punch, we can become a dark type to make our Sucker Punches hit even harder. So the default best Mon, whenever you're just looking for a Mon to add to a team and you're in Regulation D, you can usually decide between one of the Ruin Mons. So the Ruin Mons are basically, they have these 4 abilities: Beads of Ruin, Sword of Ruin, Tablets of Ruin, Vessels of Ruin. These are, it's going to be Ting-Lu, Wo-Chien, Shen-Pao, and Chi-Yu. I'll show you basically what they all look like. So there's Chi-Yu right here, there's Shen-Pao, and this is just like an easy way to team build if you don't really know what you're doing. So Wo-Chien and Ting-Lu. So in situations where you have a big physical attacker, you would want to add Shen-Pao. It uses the Sword of Ruin ability to shred your opponents and your teammates' defense stats, so you can actually just come in with the Cinderace and just do way too much damage in one shot, everything. If you have like a special attacker, you might want to use Chi-Yu, which lowers their special defense. If you have a Pokemon that has a really, really weak defense stat, right, and it's like a Pokemon, like let's say for example like a Blissey, you would want to use like a Wo-Chien as maybe as a teammate to be able to cover up for that weakness. Or Ting-Lu, maybe you have a really, really low Spadef stat on one of your Mons. You might want to use a Ting-Lu to cover up for that. So you can usually add one of these Mons and then build from there. So Cinderace and Shen-Pao go together like 2 peas in a pod over here. Shen-Pao is going to be able to shred those defenses. They're both pretty fast, so they can hit hard, they can hit fast, and they can just kind of close out games very, very early. It's going to tend to be more of like a hyper-aggressive variant. So then what you want to do is go to check out some usage stats. You can do this on websites like Pikalytics, or you can do this on websites like our Pokemon Home on your phone on the app. So let's go take a look. Let's just type in Cinderace and see what comes up. Cinderace, 0.08 usage, so very, very low. These are common moves that Cinderace has, so if you're looking for moves to use with Cinderace and you don't really know, these are some great options, and they're all good. You can see also popular teammates. So these are things that people are adding to their teams with Cinderace. So no one's using Shen-Pao, and they're wrong. You should definitely use Shen-Pao with Cinderace, in my opinion. But you can see like popular things like Tornadus here. Chi-Yu's a bit off because Cinderace doesn't really have a high special attack, but Chi-Yu's just a really good Pokemon. Thundurus is good. Basculegion's weird. These are probably just people with new toy syndrome. Fluttermane's a good choice as well. Let's take a look at Shen-Pao though. Shen-Pao. All right, and so since we just added the Shen-Pao, we're going to be doing a Shen-Pao core. We want to add Mons that have great synergy with Shen-Pao. So I think the best one here is going to be Dragonite. I think Dragonite's going to be able to definitely go with the whole vibe that we're building here. So Dragonite, what Dragonite gets is like extreme speed and stuff like that. So you're going to be able to go like Shen-Pao, Dragonite, very, very standard core. And then from there, you know, let's just check out some other Pokemon that go well. Right, we can check, like, you can see people have like Urshifu Rapid Strike, which is the water variant. I don't know if we need that yet. Fluttermane's always standard. Tornadus for some speed control. I don't think there's an issue with having more speed control. Usually once you get your core 3 Mons together of having an idea of what you want to do proactively, that means how are you going to actually dictate play? What are you going to be using as your core to force your opponent to react to that? After you get that set and understood, which is what we have right here, I would say you want to move on to making sure you have right forms of speed control. And so this is where I would definitely add a Tornadus. Right, I would definitely add Tornadus, and there's going to be a few different things we can do with this Tornadus, but basically Tornadus gets Prankster, which makes all of its support moves and status moves +1 priority, so you can go for a Tailwind that will immediately enable these Pokemon to act at a +2 speed tier and basically just invalidate a lot of opponents' play if they don't really have the right board set for this. Now again, I said we're going to be making a hyper-aggressive team, and that means we're going to be trying to build a team that wins the game in a few turns, and I definitely think we're right on track to do this. And again, you can then, if you're always stuck with what Mons to build around, remember, you can see what it says to build with if you're using Shen-Pao here. Let's check out another one of these Mons. We just added a Tornadus. Let's see what people like to pair with Tornadus. Oh, looks like the number one Pokemon people like to pair with Tornadus is Urshi. And that was also, I think, the number one Pokemon people paired with Shenpao as well. So let's add the Urshi. And you could add Urshi Dark, but I think Urshi Water is going to be fine just because we have, we would like some defensive pivoting here. Now, let's go and think about what we need to check off the list here. So if we want to, let's respect all of the common cores right now. And I'm going to group them into just very, very vague general areas. We have other Tailwind teams that want to go Tailwind and do their thing. We can Tailwind and do our own thing with the best one. We have priority here, priority here, priority here. We have base 135 speed here. If we want to trade Tailwinds, we actually have a big advantage, right? I would say, since we're very, very fast. Let's talk about the opposite of that. Let's talk about Trick Room. How do we beat Trick Room with this team? If they go redirection Trick Room, we're up the creek without a paddle. And so once you get this far into your team building process, you could add one Mon that has a good Trick Room matchup, like an Amoonguss or a Glastrier. Or what you can do, and what I'm going to recommend in this situation, is just add an Imprison Mon. Imprison is a really, really cool mechanic where you can go Imprison. And what this does is it makes it so any Mon that has the same move that your Mon has, they cannot use that move. So if we have Imprison and Trick Room, right? They cannot use the Trick Room, even if they already clicked it. If we use Imprison before they use that Trick Room, which has a negative priority, they don't even get to use Trick Room. So we want to pick one of these Mons to Imprison Trick Room. Now, there's so many Mons that you can use Imprison Trick Room with. I think Articuno Galar could be a good one because this team is kind of susceptible to Intimidate, especially on these 3 Mons over here. You could also just pick a Ghost type. You could pick a Farigiraf, very, very solid Mon. I think what we're going to do is pick the Fluttermane. I think the Fluttermane for a few reasons, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But also Fluttermane was also highly recommended on all of the recommended Mons for Tornadus, Urshifu, Shenpao, Dragonite. I think Fluttermane is still the most popular Pokemon if we take a look at the usage stats on the right here. So Fluttermane, Urshi, Torn, Shenpao. We have 4 of the 5 most used Mons in this format on our team, but we're going to be using them in a way that supports Cinderace, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So now that we have our 6 Mons, what I would recommend here is going to an actual defensive type team builder guide. This is on Maryland. I have a link to it in the description. Let's start putting in some of these Pokemon and seeing if we have any huge weaknesses to specific types. So Cinderace, Shenpao. Where is this guy? Shenpao, Dragonite, Dragonite. We have Urshi Water. And then we have we had Flutter and Tornadus. Yeah, Tornadus. And Flutter. All right. So we have all these weaknesses here. So you can see once we get to this part, we have a lot of glaring weaknesses to Rock and Fairy. So we have Rock weakness on Cinderace, Shenpao, Dragonite, and Tornadus. Big Rock weaknesses. There's only one switch in being an Urshi Water. And then as for Fairy, we have weaknesses to Shenpao, Dragonite, and Urshi Water with our only resistance being Cinderace, right? So these are a lot of weaknesses, and normally I wouldn't recommend having this many weaknesses, but you also have to think about it. You could have a million weaknesses to Rock if nothing is stabbing those Rock moves, right? If it's just a Landorus using a Rock move, a super effective Rock Slide would be about as strong, because it's going to be doubling a 75 base into a 150. A super effective Rock Slide is the same base power as a natural stabbed Earthquake, which is a 100 stab boosted up to 150. So in reality, is that a weakness if the only move people are using is Rock Slide on Mons that don't stab it? Well, if that's what the meta says, then yes. But let's go take a look at some usage stats and see how many Pokemon are using Rock moves commonly. I'm not seeing them. You know what I mean? You might see Rock Slide on some of these. So it's not like Hisuian Arcanine is the number one Pokemon in the meta just slam you. So you can actually, what I'm saying is, you can have this Rock Slide because it's not even really a weakness if the type doesn't exist. We see this a lot with Bug and Ice typing. Most predominantly Ice typing in previous formats where there was no Mons that stabbed it, Iron Bundle wasn't around. You could totally just have a couple Ice weaknesses on the team because the worst case scenario was you'd be eating an Ice Beam with Grosselia. So just know that you have a lot of weaknesses to Rock. And you also got to think Rock types. What are those weak against? Can we build a team that punishes those? And if they are going to be stabbing those Rock types, what are some of the common Rock types? Right? Let's just take a look since we're here. Right? So we're just going to type in Rock. And let's see, Arcanine, Dreadnought, Tyranitar, Iron Thorns, Lycanroc. Lycanroc is a big deal, right? So what do those things have in common? They have a weakness to water, which we're going to be using our Urshifu. So anytime we are actually pinned, we can usually just protect with our teammates, pivot in that Urshifu water, use its fighting typing to resist the rock, and then just repin them with the Urshifu. So this is just having a game plan in case we do fight one of those bad matchups, but let's get back to doing our team building guide. So let's see, we got Cinderace here. So now that we have all of our Mons, what we want to do is start adding some moves. You still don't want to do abilities, you don't have to. You still don't really need to do items or anything like that, or EVs. Let's just pick some moves that we know we want on these Pokemon so they can actually be played the way we want them to be played. First thing we talked about here was the Imprison Trick Room here. Remember, Imprison, no foe can use any move known by the user, and Trick Room. So we're going to be using this as an Imprison Trick Room user, and there's a few other things that we're going to be able to do as well with this when we get a little bit later into it. For Urshifu, we want to definitely have that Surging Strikes. Surging Strikes being able to hit multiple times, 3 times, and all 3 results are critical hits, so this lets us avoid Intimidate and probably like one of the best Pokemon in the game. As for Tornadus, we know that we want a Tailwind on it. That's why we added the Pokemon. With Dragonite, we talked a little bit about adding Extreme Speed. That's what we want this guy's roll to be. With Shenpao, I think that Ice Spinner is going to be better than Icicle Crash here. I know a lot of people go back and forth because like Ice Crash doesn't make contact and it's a little bit better in those situations, but I think Spinner is good because we have so much priority here. So we know that we want the Ice Spinner. And then as for the Cinderace, there are a few different things we could do. We could do Pyro Ball, right? Pyro Ball is a big move, 120, 90% accuracy is not great. 10% chance to burn the target, thaws you. It's a good move. It's one of Cinderace's signature moves. You can also just go Flare Blitz. So if you're someone that like doesn't want to miss and you don't mind taking recoil, there's nothing wrong with Flare Blitz. They're both really, really solid options. And on the team that we're going to be building today, you could definitely use either. So be sure to check out the PokePaste linked in the description if you want to actually use this team in your own games on Showdown. I don't know exactly which one I would like to use yet. We're going to put Pyro Ball in here just because I like being able to retain the illusion of... I'm not going to say even illusion of Sash because we're not going to use Sash on this thing, I don't think. And I'll also say I'm creating all these teams from scratch right now. It's not like I have anything like planned out in my head. I'm just trying my best to do a good Cinderace team building guide. There's nothing wrong with Flare Blitz, right? I don't want to miss. Yeah, just go Flare Blitz. Cinderace can kind of get caught in a situation like, let's go back and talk about how Cinderace used to get played in the past. People would go Pyro Ball, right? People would go High Jump Kick, right? And then people would go like Bounce. This would be turning into Max Airstream in previous formats. And then Sucker Punch. So you can kind of get into a situation here where if you just need to finish off someone that's at 1, they can like weave in support moves and make you fail a Sucker Punch. They can protect every other turn, so Bounce isn't going to work. Bounce can also miss. High Jump Kick is unpredictable and not 100%. And Pyro Ball is also not 100%. And so you can get in a situation where you just can't close people out with Cinderace. So I think for that reason, we're going to go with Flare Blitz for this one. We're going to go with Flare Blitz for this team. And then we're going to talk about a couple other moves we want to use with the Cinderace. I don't think there's an issue with using Protect on this guy. I'm not a big fan of Protect on Libero Mons because you become a normal type and I don't really want to have that. But sometimes Protect is just needed, in my opinion. I also think that we're going to want to still maybe add the High Jump Kick just to have it for now. And let's actually put Sucker Punch right here. So it's a very standard Cinderace set, but we haven't got our item done yet. We haven't got our EVs done yet. Very, very standard set here. And I really like the fact that like we can become a dark type with the Libero to be able to like get the big double dip on like our Sucker Punch when paired with like Shenpao. It's really, really good. I also think we're going to want to add Sucker Punch here on Shenpao. And I was thinking about maybe at some point using like a substitute or like a taunt Shenpao. I think there was actually a lot of potential there. But I think we're just going to go very standard. This is a very standard Shenpao set. You can, again, go into your usage stats, check out Shenpao, and see like Protect, Sucker Punch, Ice Spinner, Sacred Sword. Hey, it's right there. It's not like I'm not like just copying it because it says it. These are the moves that we want for these situations, but they're also like the moves that most people use. Like I talked about, sometimes people use Crash, sometimes you want to use Throat Chop, but I think we're gonna want the I think we're gonna want the Sucker Punch in this situation, and then we're just gonna Protect. I would say Protect is the best move on these Ruin Pokemons because it elongates their presence on the board and makes it so you can get as many of their as long of an effect of their Sword of Ruin or their Ruin abilities in general. Dragonite, we know we want the Extreme Speed. I actually am a big fan, too, of... I think we're going to make this one a Banded Dragonite. If we were to take a look at usage stats, let's go to Dragonite, which is a little bit down here. And you can see the common items on Dragonite. Most people go Band. Now, there's so much to be said for using Tailwind like Lumberry Dragonite, which is also a little bit down here on like a multi-scale set. I think on this one, though, we're going to want to go to the Inner Focus to avoid the Intimidate and Fake Outs and just be like straight cookie cutter, like... glue-eating Dragonite because it's going to fit the team playstyle the best. So as far as that set, these are the moves that people like to use. I think we're going to use Iron Head for sure. I like Iron Head versus Flutters, so we're going to use like Extreme Speed. I kind of want to put Terra on here. I will put Terra Blast, and we're probably going to go with Terra Flying, but we'll do that at the very end. I always think you save your Terra to the end to cover up for some of those weaknesses that your team might have. I like Iron Head here for Flutters. And then as for this like last move, the usage stats say that people like Outrage. And there's nothing really wrong with Outrage. There's not. You could put Ice Spinner there again too, but you got to think like you're going to lock into something. I do think we will go Outrage. It's the strongest move, 120. It's a good move. But usually you're just using Extreme Speed. You're going to go like normal Terra, Extreme Speed. Oh, actually then we wouldn't be able to do Terra Blast. All right, well then let's change that. What do we want? I've also seen people using Aqua Jet. You could technically go Earthquake here. Let's see, what else are people using on Banded Dragonite? I'm not the biggest Banded Dragonite guy. And they have like default EV spreads here you can try out as well. It's actually really nice. Picolytics is a good site for this sort of stuff. E-Speed, they go Stomping Tantrum. And like, I guess that's fine, but I feel like you're locking yourself in. Like, what is Stomping Tantrum good against? It's okay against Flutter. It's okay here. It's bad there, bad there, bad there. It's good here, but Heatran's always Terra. It's not good there, not good there. Like, I don't think any of these things are good to Stomping Tantrum. I don't want to lock myself into that move. I think Aerial Ace is okay. I'd rather have the low kick, I think. Do we get Brick Break? I'm gonna put Brick Break there. Being able to break screens could be nice. Yeah, I'm gonna put Brick Break. I think Brick Break's cool. We just need a fighting move, you know? So I'll put Brick Break. We're very rarely gonna use this, if anything. We just need something that lets us hit steel types. So, yeah. Going to the Tornadus here. We definitely want to add the Bleak Windstorm. This is Tornadus' main form of damage output. Let's take a look at Tornadus and see what people like to run on it. So Tailwind, Bleak Windstorm, right? You could still run Taunt, you could still run Rain Dance, you can run Protect, Icy Wind. What we're going to do on this team is run Scary Face. I've been a big fan of Scary Face and Tailwind. What you want to do is trade Tailwind so them turn 1, outspeed them, and then turn 2, Scary Face so you can outspeed them again. Like further outspeed. So you can actually let them get that big speed control. You can go like Protect, Tailwind, they can't kill your Torn, and then you Scary Face their Torn's teammate again in the matchup where you trade Tailwinds with them. So this lets you maintain your speed control. And the way we're going to be able to do that is with a Mentor, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. And then as for this last move, a lot of people would go Rain Dance here. A lot of people go Rain Dance here because you can immediately enable your Urshifu, but you can also take away the weather from other Sun teams. And so I think that we will still go Rain Dance. I'm not the biggest fan of this, but it is the correct move. And if you take a look at the usage stats, it's what people are doing. So I'd say it works. And you could also put Taunt. You could put Protect there. There's nothing really wrong with putting Protect in this slot either. I do like Protect on these guys. We might not even use a Mentor, but I might actually go with a Covert Cloak variant because I'm very comfortable with that as well. Take a look at this Urshifu here. We definitely want to take a look at what Urshifu's common moves are. So Surgeon Strike's Close Combat, Aqua Jet Protect, Detect. You always want to use Detect over Protect. And that's because it's a lot harder to imprison Detect than it is Protect. So for example, we have this Imprison Protect, or Imprison Trick Room set. If I put Protect on this Flutter Mane, we'd be imprisoning Protects on other Urshifus. So you always want to go Detect because it's a lot harder. I think maybe only Medicham can imprison Detect. Let me know in the comments if there's any other Detect imprison mods. But it's very, very uncommon to see. So you always want to go with Detect. That being said, these are the moves that Urshi Water gets. I think that we're going to want to go Close Combat for sure. And then, I'm not going to lie, I'm probably going to build this Scarf. So if we're going to be building Scarf, you can do a couple different things. You can have U-Turn here, which I think we will still want to have. And then you can have Aqua Jet in some situations, but it doesn't really make sense with a Scarf. So I'm actually going to put Ice Spinner here, just so we have a better matchup against, like, Landos in some situations. Maybe they have like a Gastro on the board. This lets us still hit things for Ice. This lets us hit Dragonite very well. So I'm going to keep the Ice Spinner here. And a second, I'm always a big proponent as well. If there's something that you need to get done to make your team function correctly, you want to double up on that. So it makes it so Shimpao doesn't have to do all the work of having to Ice Spinner all by its lonesome. Urshifu can be used somewhat in the same way if we have to close out a game with like an Extreme Speed Dragonite. So it's always good to double up on those things. And last but not least, the Flutter. Remember, we have Imprisoned Trick Room, right? But these last two moves are pretty important because you got to think, what moves do we want to put on our Flutter Mane to make our Flutter Mane still work correctly? But then also, what moves do we want to put on this Flutter Mane to make it work correctly that we want to imprison as well? So that's where I think Dazzling Gleam, and I'm going to put Shadow Ball here. This is going to make it so other Flutter Mains, if we're fighting them, only can Moonblast. And if they can only Moonblast, they can be Protect baited by our teammates and then taken out by our Flutter Main, and we're in a good spot. Because remember, they can't Shadow Ball us back. So that way, if we were to change our Terra to something that, like, let's just say, for example, maybe like Fire, or something that, like, Poison, for example. I think I might try Poison. I try that. We could then make it so they have to go all in on our Flutter Main with their Moonblast, and they just can't KO us, and we can just take them out with 2 Shadow Balls or 1 Shadow Ball. Now, you may be thinking, this is all well and good with this Imprison Trick Room thing, and it's good against, like, slow teams like Ursaluna Crest, and that's totally fine. But, like, what do you do when, like, they lead Flutter Main and you lead Flutter Main? How do you just go Imprison? Well, that's where we're going to start doing our items now, and it's going to come into play. We're going to go Booster Energy on this Flutter Main. And what this is going to do is it's going to let us basically get a +1 boost to our speed stat through the use of photosynthesis, so we can just immediately outspeed their Flutter Mains and turn 1 just go Imprison on it, which means if they want to go Dazzling Gleam or Shadow Ball or anything, they can only really click Moonblast. And even if they do, they don't really win the game for it. The game just kind of plays as normal. So I think this is a really, really cool way to play Flutter Main. I think more people should play it this way as more of just an anti-Flutter Main, because remember, we had a lot of weaknesses to Fairy, to Dazzling Gleam on this type chart here. So being able to disable their ability to get Dazzling Gleam by anything, not just Flutter Mains, it makes it so Shenpao Dragonite are so much harder to get off the board, because you can't break potential multi-scales or sashes with the Dazzling Gleam. You have to go all in with Moonblast, and because they have such defensive items and abilities, it's hard. It's a huge commitment from your opponent that you basically just say they can't even do anyways. And they basically lose the game for trying. So I think it's a very, very good idea. I'm going to put a Choice Scarf here. Note that we still haven't done EVs. We've briefly talked about Terra, but you don't need to do all those things. We're adding these things one at a time to correctly cover up for the holes that we have over here. You could use Mental Herb or Covert Cloak. I'm going to go Covert Cloak. You know, this team could be used in best of 1, best of 3, open, closed team sheet, doesn't really matter, but I like the Covert Cloak. It says you can't fake out this guy, and you can just generally always go for Tailwind or Rain Dance, and that's kind of nice. Yes, they can taunt you. We'll talk about why that shouldn't be a problem. Dragonite, we talked about Choice Band. Shenpao, we're going to put the Sash here. Now remember, Cinderace. The original set with Cinderace, we was like, I'm going to put Sash, but by doing that, it would have locked us out of this whole team, because we couldn't really use Shenpao the same way, and if we couldn't use Shenpao the same way, we couldn't use Dragonite, we wouldn't be using these 2 monsters to support it in the same way, right? So I really do think that a Life Orb is a better item here based off the things that we've done. We also don't need to have, like, we have Flare Blitz, right, which does recoil, which means we don't need to keep up the illusion of Sash. We're already going to be taking recoil. So this is going to let our Cinderace hit really, really, really hard. Now, the next thing that we're going to be doing is taking a look at our EVs. Again, we're doing this before Terra still. We don't need to do Terra yet. Remember, the one speed tier that we needed to make sure we outsped with this guy was, I think, 111s. Right over here, we need to make sure we're faster than Lycanroc. So if, like, they would Lycanroc T-Tar and we would, like, Cinderace Tornadus, we can Tailwind a trade and match their speed tier and just KO them with, like, a high jump kick or something. Or Protect and mess around. We want to always be able to outspeed Lycanroc. So this is where I'm going to go to a damage calculator. I'm going to plug in a Cinderace here. And let me know in the comments if you guys are liking this little series so far. If you think it's educational, if you think I should make more of it. We haven't even got to the singles part yet, the good part, right? All right, so we're going to plug both these 2 Pokemon in. We're going to plug in a 252 Jolly Lycanroc, and we need to get faster than this. And by doing this, this is going to let us outspeed everything Lycanroc or slower. So Mousehold, Screamtail, the Genies. I have a Olo and Doug Trio team coming to Patreon relatively soon. All these guys, good stuff. So we're right here. So we need to get to 181 on Cinderace. You see, if we go 252, we do not get that number yet. So we need to still be Jolly. But you're going to see, we don't need to be this fast. And you could still go this fast, but I'm telling you, you don't need to. I'm telling you, you don't need to. This is fast enough, right? Here, 204. Now, this isn't really, like, min-maxing that much, but what you're going to realize is you can go 204 here with Speed Nature. And then maybe like a 252 here. And then you can split this up like this. And realistically, a set like this, actually even more realistic, something like this, 28 is going to be better because it ends us in a 9, which means you take 1 less tick of health every single time you use a Life Orb. And then maybe you would put the respective points here. I'm going to put it in defense because, again, those physical teams are so popular. You don't want to die to priority moves. This Cinderace set is a lot bulkier. Yes, we have items like our Life Orb, which take our health, and moves like Flare, which would take our health. But we have so much more bulk. I'm gonna run a calc here. So 28, 24, right? So 28, 20, and 4. Right, and let's go to Urshifu. Let's just plug in an Urshifu Rapid Strike. So let's plug in like an Aqua Jet. So you see how much damage that Aqua Jet does, but if they were to like Water Terra and maybe have like an Adamant Nature, and let's take away some of these. Do you see how that we would have, oh, you can't see it on that side. Great, you know, the camera's in the way. Let's, aha. So there is a slight situation where if they're like Adamant Nature, Water Terra, Aqua Jet, we could die to that Aqua Jet, but the slight change in these EVs make it so we don't ever die. It's mitigating at like 7%, right? So it's just giving you a little bit more bulk than you would normally have. And it's those little bulk changes that are going to let you live stuff and throw off your opponent's calcs by about 5%. So for people that are going big in the damage calculator and trying their best to understand how they can like min-max and, you know, correctly flowchart everything, this is a little wrench in their plan. This is the big difference in team building that I think people need to understand. And I'm going to tell you guys how we get to this exact spread and how it's different from something like this. So again, we saw that we needed to be 204 here, right? We got the speed stats done first. Now, normally, I always say you want to throw those points in HP, just because HP helps you mitigate damage at roughly, you know, half the percent to both defense and special defense at the same time. I've talked about that in multiple team building guides in the past. Go watch some of those other ones. But realistically, you also want to cut up 8 points. Because remember, EVs are built, the first 4 matter, right? And then after that, in Battle Stadium and VGC, it's every 8. So 4 gives you something, right? 12 gives you something. 20 gives you something. 28. Just 8 will give you nothing. You're in no man's land between 4 and 12. So what you want to do is like 4, 12. You want to have these numbers hit. And so realistically, we have 52 points. Yeah, you could just go 52 points here, but it's smarter to go 44 points here, which is 8 less, and cut up that last 8 into a set of 4, 4 here. And then this would normally be what the Cinderace set would be. Now, the last thing that I talked about was the Life Orb and how there's a little trick in ending this number in 9, makes the Life Orb's recoil of 1/10, take 1 HP less every single turn. So you want to drop this down 2 sets of 8 till you end this at 159. So that's going to be 28. And then, like I said, the way we got to here was you just put them in defense, because if we take a look at the usage stats, it's like, yes, Flutter Mane, but like physical attacker, physical attacker. Let's even take a look at like in-game. You can sort these by in-game, and on Showdown, it's like physical attacker, physical attacker, physical attacker, physical attacker, physical attacker, physical attacker. You know, there's a lot of physical attackers right now. So and all those physical attackers all have big priority moves like Sucker Punches, Aqua Jets, extreme speeds, things like that. So just a little bit more defense is usually more preferred on Cinderace, I would say. So that is the Cinderace set that we're going to be using for VGC. I think it's a pretty solid spread. And we can go into Shimpao. Shimpao's going to be a lot easier. General rule of thumb on Sashmons is you don't need to go and do all those crazy stats, because you don't need to min-max for defense, because they're always going to be left at 1 if they were at full. So for these mons, you can usually just click the button. And again, normally I would put points in HP, but Shimpao is a much more bloated HP stat than some of its respective defenses. So you want to max out those lower stats first. So this is completely fine. We want to be max speed. We don't need to do anything spectacular. If we take a look at like usage stats for Shimpao, you know, most people they use Sash, and if we take a look at like EV spreads, does this guy even have EV spread option? It's all 252 club on Shimpao. It's pretty much what it is. There are some variants where you can like Adamant, drop a little bit of speed, make it bulkier with like a vest. We're not doing that. It's not worth it. As for Dragonite, one thing I want to talk about with Dragonite is we do have access to Tail. We're mostly going to use an Extreme Speed, which is a priority move, but we still need to make sure that we can actually KO the specific mons that we want to KO through the correct speed tiers, right? If we're taking a look at speed tiers, what do we want to double to outspeed? I think it's definitely worth it to outspeed Dragapult if we're doubling our speed in like a Tailwind. So we need to get to 108 to outspeed Dragapult, which we'll talk about, or sorry, 107. We also might want to be able to outspeed like a booster Flutter Mane, right? So let's just take a look at Flutter Mane here. And what I mean by booster Flutter, that's a Flutter Mane that's going to be very similar to ours, using the booster energy. I want to see if Dragonite can even catch that. So that's going to be 252 over here, make it like a Timid, and then give it a +1 speed, and be sure to set it to 50. So that gets to 307. That's actually pretty significant. Dragonite over here. And you may be thinking, you don't need to do all that. Why do you need to do all that? Realistically, this is going to let you outspeed not only this Flutter Mane, but everything's slower than that Flutter Mane in that situation too. Dragonite gets to 50. Right? Let's give it a +2 boost from the Tailwind, so 200. We're way not there yet. 252, still not there yet. make ourselves Jolly. Still not there yet. So that means we cannot outspeed the booster Flutter. So what would be the next Pokemon we would want to outspeed in that situation? Like I said, sorting the things by speed tiers. If we can't catch booster Flutter, you know, Scarf Shampoo is not like a thing. We're already going to be able to outspeed anything that these guys would throw out. So I would say just outspeeding base mons without any modifiers. Because we can't catch the Flutter with the modifier. But what we can do is make sure we outspeed Pult. So like let's say they lead Pult and we lead like Tornadus, Dragonite. We can go Tailwind and just KO the Pult. And so we're going to calc for that right now. So let's go to Dragapult. I said we need to get to 107. But we're going to speed group that by just a little bit. Right here. So Dragapult, 252. Give it a Jolly. And so 213. So Dragonite, like I said, doesn't need that much if you're adamant to outspeed that. It's like 52, right? So this lets you outspeed Pult by 1 point so that you can then still just KO it with Outrage. And since we're going to be, our speed stat right now is 107. And this is just a general rule of thumb that I do with my teams. If I have something around 107, what I want to do is make sure that we're outspeeding Pokemon that are around base 100s that have EVs made to capitalize on -1 speed calcs, things like Electrowebs and Icy Winds. We can check what these are by taking a look at, like, let's just take a look at a Charizard. Charizard is a base 100 speed Pokemon. There's a lot of base 100 speed Pokemon in this format. And by proxy, all these base 100 speed Pokemon, there's a lot of things that are just a little bit slower than them as well. So let's take a look at, so we see Charizard right here. So Charizard, Chi-Yu, Palafin, Salamence, Tauros, Toedscruel, Typhlosion, Volcarona, Zapdos. You're seeing a lot of very popular Pokemon. And then by proxy, outspeeding those, you outspeed all of these guys as well. Urshifus, Arcanines, Haxoruses, Mimikyus. So we're right here. If we take a look at Charizard and give it like a 252, let's give it a Timid. We're going to talk about, and after setting it to level 50, what a -1 speed calc is. So giving it a -1, this would be something like an Icy Wind or basically like a Electroweb for like an Urshifu. We want to be able to make sure that we outspeed this number because a lot of those Pokemon might have, there might be times where we get -1 and we still want to outspeed them, but then also like outspeed their base forms. It's hard to explain, but like basically we want to outspeed these numbers. So we want to get ourselves to 112 here on this number. So we want to get right here. Right, so this is going to double to 224, which is a good number, but like having the 112 here means that like we don't have anything to really capitalize on those mons in those situations, but we want to still get our mon here, so then the other mons that they have that are made to capitalize on this situation are still slower than us. So for example, yes, we would already outspeed the Charizard. We're already way overdoing it in our Tailwind, right? We're 224 to 170, we're killing it, right? But what they might have in a situation is like a Pokemon like, let's see, let's use Rillaboom. And Rillaboom on a team with like an Alecki or an Iron Bundle or something might have some calcs to be able to capitalize on those +1 calcs. Rillaboom might be something like, it might have like 60 points or something around there. So we're going to put a couple more Dragonite, but they might have a Rillaboom set that is this fast. It gets to 113. So let's say we don't have Tailwind up. We don't want to get outsped by their Rillaboom. Right, so we want to make sure that we have enough speed to capitalize on their other Pokemon that are made to capitalize after they would get speed control on other stuff. Because this Rillaboom was made to capitalize on base 100s after speed control, and we want to just defaultly outspeed them. If this doesn't make sense, let me know in the comments. But basically, we're not trying to outspeed their sweepers with this Dragonite. We're trying to outspeed their walls that are made to capitalize after they get speed control, and put them in a situation where they think they don't need it because they think they have enough speed already. But in reality, we're still fast enough and they still do need the speed control. So we're putting in the minimum amount of speed to force them to need their speed control without really saying that they should. So it's a bit of a bluff. So that was 108, right? This is something that doesn't really seem like it would be that important, but when you start realizing like that your bulky like priority mons, like just outspeed, even if they're not using a priority, outspeed their like walls and other bulky mons mid games. This is like that edge that this is one of those intangibles that you don't really think about, that you're like, oh man, I'm able to close that game so much easier by having just a little bit more speed. So in those late game situations, my walls outspeed their walls. It's pretty important. So 108 speed, we can then just go 252 over here, make it an adamant. And then that same little trick of cutting up 4 there and go 140. Standard bulky Dragonite. We're going to go with the inner focus on this one. I think it's a good idea, stopping intimidates and flinches. They should still be respecting multi-scale. And so we're going to try this. Solid set. I think it's great. As for the Tornadus, we talked about using a Mental Herb over a Covert Cloak. Mental Herb's there so you can't like taunt us with your Tornadus to stop what I'm doing. I think what we're going to do to avoid this is, we don't want to get fake outed. You could click the button, and that's wrong. I'm going to go 2v2 speed, and I'm just going to go full speed Tornadus. Very, very aggressive, but this makes them have to go all in and just like taunt my Tornadus with a speed tie prankster, and I don't think that's the right play. And even if they do something like that, even if they make that choice and they taunt us, we could sort of go Tailwind first because it's a speed tie, and then they taunt us. It's like, well, the Tailwind's already up. Like, you wasted your turn, and I probably killed your Torn, right? So I think this is a solid play. And yeah, there's nothing really more to write home about. This is a very standard Tornadus. As with the Urshifu, we're going to be using a Choice Scarf set. So yeah, you could click the button, but in reality, we only need to outspeed very specific things with this Urshifu. So if we go back and take a look at like some of these calcs here, I'd want my Urshifu to outspeed an Iron Bundle in Tailwind, right? So Iron Bundle, very similar to that Flutter Mane. It's 1 point faster. So like a booster bundle. And we definitely can't do it because we have a Scarf, right? So like a 252, sorry. A 252. And again, you're going to know what mons you're going to want to outspeed the more you play the game. But like we have a weakness to bundle because we can get Freeze Dried. We want to kill it with a close combat. So 252 Timid Bundle, give it a +1 for its booster. Plug in an Urshifu over here. Urshi Water. Set it to 50. EVs are set differently, level 50 and level 100. Give it a Choice Scarf. Camera Update, Lamau. Choice Scarf, so +1 speed. And then give it a Tailwind right here. So we already like super de-duper looper outspeed that thing, right? Way a lot. Like we outspeed it by a lot. If we just don't even do anything. So you maybe think of like, why would we ever even do anything with it? You know, if we take the Tailwind out, this thing's actually pretty fast. What I would say is get this thing faster than, get this thing faster than your Cinderace, right? So Cinderace is 181, but we don't want to have them speed tying either. We want to have Urshifu be 1 speed faster or 1 speed slower, so we know who's going first in each situation. I think I'd want Cinderace to be 1 point slower. This would show that we're Scarf on Urshifu when they're both attacking, but I would want Urshifu to guarantee do what it's going to do, and then Cinderace be able to, like, let's say, for example, let's say they had, like, a Goodra, right? And I had to go, like, close combat with both. I'd much rather go, like, Urshifu, make sure it gets KO'd, and then have, like, Cinderace's high jump kick get, like, redirected into the opponent or something like that, than not do it. This is my personal preference. So we're going to go to 182 on this Urshifu, which is 36 points, or 183. We actually get a bump there. And that's great. And then, again, this is going to Tailwind proc to be able to outspeed basically anything. This is going to be able to outspeed, like, Regielekis. You know, you're outspeeding everything with this Urshifu. You're just out here. Now, you will be slower than other Urshifus, but we're going to make up for that. Other Scarfed Urshifus. But I think it's fine. You're afforded the luxury of being adamant, and then you can then just make yourself, like, very, very bulky. This is a very, very, very bulky Urshifu set. You're going to be able to trade well with their Urshis. You're going to be able to soak a lot more damage than you might think. There are situations where you want to put some just inspa def as opposed to defense. But again, there's so many big priority moves here. Let's just take a look real quick. We have an Urshifu on the left. Let's put a Dragonite over here. So let's put like a Dragonite over here. And give it like level 50. Give it like a 252 Adamant. Extreme Speed. Now we're going to take a look at the top. Extreme Speed, make it like normal Terra. And give me 1 sec. Protect for theirs. So you can see right there. So 44 to 53, but let's like add some abilities here. So like Sword of Ruin. And you can see how like an urge, like there's still a thing I'm missing here. Normal Terra, oh, it's a choice band. So you can see how a regular Urshifu could get KO'd just straight up if they have like Shumpao Dragonite and they go like all in on that E-speed. But our Urshifu is like way too bulky. We can even take like a couple ticks like Sandstorm or like other chip like Fake Outs and stuff like that and still live it. It's throwing off their calcs by about 12%. And so I think that's pretty important, being able to just have that much bulk. I'm very comfortable with a set like this, but you can also just go like full speed. There's nothing wrong in this situation with actually just going like this and just knowing that you have a fast Urshifu with a Scarf. What I like to do with my Scarf Mons is usually make them just fast enough to outspeed the exact threat that I want them to outspeed. We're still outspeeding those Pults and things like that as well. And it's just a fine set. I'm comfortable with it. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know in the comments. I also like being adamant on these guys a lot. As for the Flutter, you can actually just click the button here. And it's wrong. Wow, because we have Trick Room. Click the button here. I usually like to throw my last 4 in HP because it's such a low number. You don't need to throw them in Spadef. And then we want to go Speed Nature. So we can get the booster to our speed in every single situation. So we can actually go with like the Dazzling Gleams correctly. So, and then you imprisons correctly and everything else. The last thing we want to do with this team is go for Terras, right? So you can use Terras to solve for some of these matchups. I think Urshifu, I'm going to make this a Grass Terra, and I don't know if it's 100% right, but I'm comfortable with Grass. It stops those electric attacks we were talking about. Makes it so like Amoonguss can't redirect you as easily with Rage Powder, and you don't have to worry about getting spored. So I'm okay with this. Tornadus, I'm actually going to keep flying. Normally you could talk about going Ghost here to avoid Fake Out, but we have Covert Cloak. You can also talk about going Dark to be able to stop Pranksters. I actually just like the flying. I like the double dip Bleak Windstorm on those late game situations because this team is not reliant on Terra. Yes, we'd like to Terrasilize our Dragonite, but if Dragonite died before it could Terra or isn't brought, we don't really need to Terrorize anything. Might as well just get a little bit more damage on a Tornadus and throw off their calcs. Dragonite has the normal Terra. Shempow, we're going to go Ghost here so we can avoid Fake Outs and Fighting Attacks since we have big weaknesses to both of those. Well, big weaknesses, the Fighting Attacks. And as for Cinderace, we can do so many different things with this guy. I will just go Ghost just so I can avoid Fake Outs if I have to. I think that's generally a good way to play it. You can also double dip any of these. You can go Fire, Terra, Fighting, Dark, and get those double dips. But I think for right now, what we're going to test, I think Ghost is fine. And that's pretty much the team. It took us 43 minutes to build this team from scratch and go over some stuff. So let's go play some games with it and see how it performs. Let's go. All right, so Shempow Dragonite, Flutter Chi-Yu. We have some screens. We have some Tornadus. So it's very, very standard stuff. A lot of very, very popular Pokemon. Cinderace, though, actually can come in and do a lot of stuff here. Cinderace is getting against Shempow. Cinderace is getting against Chi-Yu. Cinderace can go Dark. If we want to Sucker Punch, make ourselves immune to Grim, stuff like that. I think it's a very, very solid lead. Do I want to lead Cinderace, though? Or do I want to open up more like Urshifu Torn with a Cinderace closer? I think that's probably a better play. Just because we want to feature Cinderace doesn't mean we have to lead with it every time. So like, I'm going to go Torn Urshifu here. They're going to get a screen. We're going to crit those things out. I'm going to bring my Dragonite and my Cinderace in the back. We could also talk about going like Flutter. So like Flutter, if we were to read them leading Flutter Chi-Yu and we let Flutter Urshifu, we'd be able to imprison their Flutter immediately and just like KO their Chi-Yu with our Scarf Urshi. That would be sick. That would be really funny. And that's a read. That might be like a game 2 option. But there's nothing wrong with what we were talking about right here. Cool. So Torn, probably gonna be trading Torns here. Oh, dude, we should have led with it. But you see what I mean? Like, I already got the flowcharts made for that shit. The good thing about this is we can just go Tailwind. I think I'm actually just going to hit the Flutter main since we do a pretty good job at walling Chi-Yu. They have to force Terra to actually get around that. They can totally go like Water Terra Flutter or do like all their other things. They don't really care. But Tailwind into that should be able to get some good damage in here. Yep, cool. Gonna get those KOs. Those are auto crits, remember? And you can go for a Dark Pulse. Yeah, we're way bulky. And we're actually still going to be, I was going to say Dragonite. They shouldn't be able to get a KO on us. Let's go back to our damage calculator that we had. If we take away the Sword of Ruin, they do 67% is the max that they can do. And we are currently at 65. So they could KO us, but I doubt it. In this exact situation, we want the Chi-Yu off the board. But we also want to get some damage on Dragonite. We can just go for a Bleak Windstorm, break the potential multi-scale, and just Surging Strikes Chi-Yu. Fine with that. Shempow comes in. Okay, they have the damage here. Normal Terra, do they get the KO? They do. Yeah, so that one, they do get the KO. We missed the... Oh, we didn't miss Bleak one. But hey, we knew that had to happen. They basically forced their Shempow. How much damage was the low roll for that? 75 was the low roll there. So, but basically, we now know that they're banded too if we were to take away the band. Yeah, they have to be banded. So we actually know they're banded based off the calcs, based off the work we did in our team building. It's so good. So they're banded. They have to be banded. And we still have a Tailwind up. So we can just go Cinderace here. They have E-Speed, so maybe we should go Dragonite. Yeah, we go Dragonite because we want to E-Speed them first. We still outspeed there. So we can just go for like a Bleak Wind, get the KO there, and we do the exact same thing back. So we still have all the control that we need in this matchup. That Dragonite's super stuck. Their Ghost type's gone. So we're able to lock ourselves in correctly. And remember, we have a Tailwind up, so we have a faster extreme speed than they do. It's almost like we played the game. But we got to use Cinderace. That's fine. We'll use Cinderace. Maybe like one more game with Cinderace or something. But Cinderace is the perfect like pivot and closer for this sort of team. It's a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage. It can swap in on the Shenpao on both the Shenpao's moves. I think Cinderace is such a good move. It can swap in ice attacks, swap in on some dark attacks. And remember, we still want to go for that Dragonite because our Tornadus does outspeed that Shenpao, so we just get the KO there. Last mon is the Chi-Yu again. We already saw this. We can do so many different things. We can go for Rain Dance. I'm just going to go for the Bleak One on my last turn. Oh, they got the KO. Cool. So let's go into one more game, and we're going to use Cinderace. Cinderace is just it was a good closer that we didn't even have to use, but like, let's go into it and try and use Cinderace. Yeah, we didn't need the Cinderace. It was just smarter in that situation to use the Dragonite. So against this one, we see some pretty standard mons. So Tornadus, Brambleghast. We can expect them to do this. What I like to do against Tornadus, Brambleghast is actually let them set Tailwind and then Tailwind secondary. So I wonder if I can just KO them with like this. I wonder if I can actually get like a double KO and then open up with like a mid-game Torn. And then I don't really want to bring Urshi to fight Azumarill. That's just not my jam. They have one Ghost type. I do like Dragonite here. Dragonite's really weird though. I'm going to try Dragonite. Don't need Flutter. Flutter's a bad matchup into like Scizor. So I'm going to bring the Dragonite. Let's go. Just don't let me lock into Outrage, guys. Don't let me do it. All right, so Goodra Torn. Wow. Okay. So Goodras don't normally carry Protect. They don't. They carry like all the other stuff, but they don't really carry Protect. So in this case scenario, I'm just going to go High Jump Kick into the Goodra. And I'm actually going to Ice Spinner the Torn to be able to then maybe either Clock a Sash or KO it and just Sucker Punch it next turn. We could go for Sacred Swords into the Goodra, but they don't have any boosts up yet, so we don't need to. So just Ice Spinner. And again, they don't usually carry Protect. They do have a Ghost type. They can totally swap out that Goodra for Brambleghast and make me miss my High Jump Kick. That would suck. But then next turn I would Sucker Punch it. Rain Dance. Torn's gone. No Tailwind for you. High Jump Kick. Fighting type. Shenpao Shred. Goodra gone. You're looking for answers to Goodra here. Oh, it's gooey. Wow. That's fine. And the Scoop. Cinderace literally busted. Cinderace is such a cool Pokemon in this format because people are used to fire types like Arcanine being a little bit more on the slow side, a little bit more bulky. And they're used to like, you know, Shenpao mons or Sucker Punch mons being built more like Shenpao. And they're not used to like Cinderace having that like awkward fire coverage, fire defensive typing with a good base speed. It just does so many things that other mons can't do. And if you lean into that and put the right pressure points in your opponent, Cinderace can be really, really good. And the exact mon that needs to be added to this sort of like hyper-aggressive core with like Shenpao, Dragonite, Urshifu, I think it adds the exact little bit of sauce. Because like sometimes these guys can get worked over by bulky walls, things like Cresselias, things like Amoonguss specifically if you don't use your Shenpao correctly. And Cinderace doesn't get walled by anything, right? It comes in and just deals a ton of damage. So I think Cinderace is pretty good. And now what we're going to do, right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to build a singles team around Cinderace. That's right, we have a whole other team building guide to go for. So let's get right into this and talk about what Cinderace does differently in singles. And again, if you guys just wanted to watch this much of the video, thank you guys so much for watching so far. But I do think there's so much to learn from learning how... We went really in depth in learning what Cinderace can offer in doubles. We're now going to look at what it can offer in singles and see what different playstyles on one Pokemon could work. Because your actual own version of how you would use Cinderace might be a fusion of these that's inspired by this video, and I cannot wait to see some of you guys' Cinderace sets in the comments. So Cinderace here, it's played very differently. Yes, that same set that we worked on would work great in singles as well. Life Orb, full aggression, really good. You'd probably want to go full speed for other Cinderaces. You're going to see a lot more full speed sets in singles because you want to force your opponent to at least be speed tying you. But Cinderace, I feel, plays very differently. That whole Shenpao thing of like using Shenpao as a teammate to shred your opponent's defense, it's not going to work as well in singles. Singles has a little bit of a different meta. We can check Battle Stadium Regulation D on the Switch. And you can see, yes, things like Flutter and Urshifu are popular, but like Heatran's more popular. And all these mons have like different sets. There's still a lot of the same popular mons, but they have different sets, right? So what does Cinderace do in singles that we can capitalize on? And I think Cinderace is a really, really good mon as a lead. And in singles, you definitely still need a lead. Like, yes, there's like team preview and you want to see what your opponent's doing, but Cinderace is a great lead and like a mid-game revenge KO mon in singles. And I feel it fits a very, very good role. It was so good in Sword and Shield, and it's still good now. But in singles, if we're going to be leading with Cinderace, we want to think about what we want to do to close out the game after, right? And I feel like every single singles team is so different. It really depends on what you want to do. And the good thing about Cinderace is you can actually kind of just splash it onto a lot of other really good teams. So if we're taking a look at like, let's see, Battle Stadium singles, yeah, it's what we got that right here. So switch. So most people are still using Urshifu. Urshifu Water still number one. A lot of Flutters, a lot of Heatrans. Cinderace would do a good job about baiting in Heatrans, but then being able to punish those Heatrans with like a big fighting attack. So they don't always want to bring in Heatran for that. It's good against Goldango. The Cinderace set that we're going to build is good against Landorus, and it baits Landorus. You got to think you can actually make yourself really Landorus weak to even more bait in those Landorus. So let's add a Pokemon that's pretty Landorus weak. So let's click on this Landorus. And let's think about what we want to add to our team to actually make ourselves more Landorus weak. So maybe an Alecki. I think Alecki is going to be a good one. So Regieleki. So if this is our lead and they have a Lando on their team and they will like at all kind of want to use it, they're totally leading that Lando, right? Because they like, the Alecki can't hit me, we're good. The Cinderace can't hit me, we're good. I'm going to intimidate the Cinderace, I'm going to be able to Earthquake both those. That's really good. So this lead right here is going to be tunneling our opponent in the team preview into potentially bringing a Landorus, which we can then punish. Because they're both very, very weak to it. And then we can utilize the speed control and the damage that Alecki brings out later to our advantage. I think we actually might want to go, am I going to say Rain Dance? I've been using a little bit of Rain in this format. And it's been a lot of fun. I don't think we would go like Tornadus as far as that, but like you can just go with like Lecky can even set Rain Dance if you wanted it to. But let's see. Do we want to even do that? Like we can go like Pelipper. Pelipper would disincentivize the Lando though, so I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to even use Urshi here. I know Urshi's in like every single singles team, but it's boring. I'm gonna go Flutter. Flutter's very standard. And let's take a look at. So we could also go our own Landorus. I don't want to bring Mons like Dondozo here because they're very. I think I might maybe want to go Fuecoco. Not the evolution, the freaking whatever that thing is, the evolution of Fuecoco. Very, very standard Mons. Meowscarada is okay here. Scizor's okay. Heatran's okay. Zapdos is actually probably better than Lecky. I'm gonna put Zapdos here. Still baits the Lando, but like Zapdos is a little bit better at pivoting, and so I like this a lot better. So what we're kind of looking at now is this is our 3-mon core. Maybe we want to add one more to where we can pivot around correctly. I'm going to actually want a Stealth Rocks user in here. Stealth Rocks pops up in singles every once in a while, and you can see how different it is building for singles than doubles. You can't just be like, this one means you use this one, which means you use this one. Singles is like, there's a lot more user flair involved, but we're looking for a Stealth Rocks user that is solid and safe. You know, you could pick something like Garchomp, but there's a ton of weaknesses attack. Glamora is probably okay. Heatran is what a lot of people use, but we're not going to need Heatran here. King Gambit is wasting a Stealth Rock slot there. A lot of people just go Lando. I guess that there's nothing wrong with Lando. It definitely does work for what we need it here for. So this is good. And then we need to add a Scarfmon. So I guess we do just go Urshi still. Let's just take a look at some things here. I'm going to sort this by what could we put a Scarf on that would just like break the game? We have to put a Scarf on something that would be able to check Urshi. So we already have like Flutter to be able to check Urshi, but we don't want to check like all these things. I guess this is where most people just go Dragonite, I guess. And Dragonite does a good job at checking most of those things. You have like ground attacks, you have like iron heads, you have like big E-speeds. That's why Dragonite is used here. We're not going to have a Rapid Spinner though. I don't really want to use a Cleavor. Don't really want to use an Ape. I guess I'll use Urshi. Urshi's the correct play, so I guess I'll do it. There are so many checks for Urshi in this format though. I might want to go actually Urshi Dark because we're going to have rocks. I will do that actually. I think Urshi Dark's fine. And then let's think about the last Mon here. We don't need a wall per se in singles. We have a bunch of thick, bulky Mons with like Intimidate support. We don't need like any sort of like Cresselia or anything like that. We don't need it. It'd be nice to have a setup Mon though. One Mon that can set up in some way. Maybe like a Dragon Dance. This is where something like maybe I would like maybe like a Roaring Moon. I think Roaring Moon could be definitely viable here. Roaring Moon can set up. It's faster than Urshi and can just KO with Acrobatics, right? It can outspeed Flutter after a Scale Shot on maybe something else and get the KO. You can put a Ground Attack for Heatran, and that's good enough coverage with like Acrobatics, I think. So like Acrobatics, yeah, Acrobatics, Earthquake, Scale Shot, Protect. No, you don't need Protect. Dragon Dance. That's fine. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Roaring Moon in that situation. All right, so if this is our team, let's plug into the damage calculator real quick. So Cinderace, Zapdos, Flutter. Come on, Flutter. Sometimes it does this. There we go, Flutter. And then we have Landorus, Urshi, Roaring Moon. So you see we have 3 weaknesses to Ice, but again, Ice is one of those types that's not stabbed. Like, it's, yes, there's Bundle, and Bundle is very important. This team can kind of deal with this. It's the wrong Landorus, but it doesn't really matter. Like, this Urshifu will actually be able to beat their Bundle. This Roaring will be able to Trastalize and probably deal with their Bundle. We're going to run some calcs for that. Zapdos can always deal with Bundle. So, like, Bundle's a problem, but we can deal with it. You can always just add a Bundle to the team, too, as well. But this is fine for what we actually want to get done here. And let's go off to the races. So, again, let's just start adding some moves that we know we want these Pokemon to use. Let's start with the Roaring Moon since we were over here. We know that we want Dragon Dance. We know that we're going to want Scale Shot. I like Scale Shot here. It's one of the only mons that gets Scale Shot. I think it might be the only one. And it's a way to get speed boost on like finishing off mons. I like it a lot. It can break sashes. It's very, very good. And then we also want the Earthquake. This is just for Heatran, basically. It's just for Heatran. As well as like Garg and other matchups like that. And the last move is going to be Acrobatics. I think we want the Acrobatics here so we can just... It's for Urshifu specifically. And it's also just like very, very solid with like a booster energy there. We're going to want a Scarf Urshidark. I think it's very uncommon to see Scarf Urshidark, and I think it's going to be very good. Landorus. I think there's nothing wrong with, like, Rocky Helmeting our Landorus, but then, like, I think we should Rocky Helmet with a Zap. So, like, I think the moveset that we want on this guy, though, is going to be Stealth Rocks. And then we're going to want a bunch of pivots. So, like, U-turn to be able to cycle. So, we're going to be able to go U-turn and Volt Switch in between these guys all day. And then maybe something like a Rock Tomb to be able to lower their speed control. This is singles variants of, like, speed control. And then just, like, an Earthquake. You can also put Taunt on Lander in this format. I think it's fine, but we don't need it. This is probably going to be a Specs Flutter, so we're going to want like Moonblast. You don't need Dazzling Gleam in singles, so Shadow Ball. You want Thunderbolt in singles to beat things like Pelipper, Gyarados, and other Urshi Waters. But then the last move, I'm still a fan of Power Gem. Some people like to go Mystical Fire. I like the Power Gem still. It hits Dragonite very well. We'll leave this for now. And then as for this guy, you can go Citrus or Rocky Helmet. I'm going to go with the Rocky Helmet. I think it's just a really, really good way to play it. Static is also a very good ability. We're going to want Roost. I know I'm putting the items on before we really need it, but like it gives context to what we need to do. So Roost is good, and then like realistically, you could go like Heat Wave. People still go Hurricane, and then like I'm going to go Volt Switch maybe. I might not even want the Heat Wave. Like what would we be Heat Waving here? You can Thunderbolt, all those things. I don't want the Heat Wave. You can Thunderbolt. I'm gonna cut that. I'm going to go Hurricane up here. And I'm going to go Thunderbolt. Because I don't want to actually always Volt Switch. Right? This seems really like anti-productive, but it definitely does still work. And then as for the Cinderace. What do we want Cinderace to do? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to Sash it. And I think Sash is a very good item on Cinderace in this format. Especially if we're going to be potentially leading with it and baiting them into going Landos. Because Lando's really good against this whole team. They should be leading Lando every single time they have a chance. So we're going to be using a counter Cinderace. We're going to be able to soak damage and then counter. And I really like that. And because we're going to be using a Sash, we don't want to use Flare Blitz. So we're going to be using Pyro Ball. And then as for like other moves that Cinderace gets, I'm going to put Court Change. Now you may think Court Change is really weird. Court Change is the other signature move that we get here. Swaps users' field effects with the opposing side. So what we're going to do is, if they see Lando, they're going to open up. And they're going to Earthquake me. I will counter, and they're dead. Easy peasy, Lando's gone. If they opt to go for Stealth Rocks, thinking I'll swap to Zapdos or something, I will let them Stealth Rocks, counter will fail. And then turn 2, I will Court Change, right? Because they're not going to Earthquake me, they're going to Hard Switch, or like U-turn or something. And then I'll just take their rocks, right? And then as for the last moment of Sucker Punch, just in case we need a little bit of a get-out-of-jail-free card. And because we're actually going to be playing Cinderace with a Sash, functioning roughly at 1 every single time, and we don't need to use these. We're not going to be doing anything with a Stab Fighting type. We're just going to be Blaze. This is one of the situations where you can just be Blaze and get the boost from Blaze if they clock your Sash. So, it shows just how different one Pokemon can be. And your own personal playstyle with this Pokemon might be a fusion of these two formats. So, this is what I would do here. We don't need to do Terras yet. We don't need to do Eevees yet. But this is how I would play this Pokemon in this format. Let's go back and make sure we got all of the moves done. all of the moves. Oh, we gotta do Urshi, duh. We're gonna want Wicked Blow. We're gonna want Close Combat. We want Sucker Punch. And then as for the last move, it's really weird what we do want to do as the last move here. Let's sort it by physical. You can do that on Showdown as well. These are all the moves that you can get. I think you just put Ice Punch. Ice Punch is fine. Rock Slide's fine. U-Turn. Let's go U-Turn. Yeah, much better. Cool. I was going to say you could also go like, what are a couple other weird moves? You can go like a weird Terra Blast, but you don't need it. This is a good set. So basically what we want to do with this team is we can lead Cinderace to take out their Rocks user on their first wall and basically take apart a piece of their 3-mon puzzle. And then we want to pivot correctly and get up our own hazards between these 3 mons, mitigate damage, with one mon either being the Flutter Mane or the Roaring Moon to be our closer. That's what we're trying to set up here. So we got Sash, Blaze, Rocky Helmet. We're doing our items right. I'm going to put a Choice Specs on this. I'm a fan of Choice Specs Flutter. That's just still something I'm a big fan of. We wanted, actually, Bird, what item do we want on this Lando? We don't need lefties. We don't need Citrus. We're not going to be able to use an AV. Don't really need like a water reduced berry, I don't think. What item would you go on this guy? I don't think there's an issue with a citrus berry. I think citrus makes us a little bit safer in some situations. You can also go like clear amulet in some situations. I think we're fine with probably just going. You can also heavy duty boots, so you can always swap it back in. You can also heavy duty boots those Zapdos, but I think we're going to be fine. And then you would Rocky Helmet here. But I think what we're going to do is just go with a Citrus Berry. I'm a big fan of Citrus Berry on Lando in this format. It feels fine. And we got the Scarf here and the Booster here. All right, so we're going to talk about the Booster and what we actually need to do with this guy. Roaring Moon needs to get a speed boost, in my opinion. And so let's go run over to the damage calculator and start running a bunch of these numbers. All right, so we need our Roaring Moon to be able to outspeed a bunch of unique Pokemon, but we don't really want to go full speed, and we also don't need full attack. So let's think about what we want Roaring Moon to outspeed. I think it's the exact same threshold as it was for other formats. We want to be able to outspeed, I would say even outspeeding Valiant is good. So we need to be able to outspeed Booster Valiant in every single situation. So we want to outspeed base 116s, so we're going to use Valiant over here. And again, by proxy, outspeeding the Iron Valiant lets you outspeed everything else that's slower than that. So like 252 Jolly Valiant. So we need to get to 185. So we're going to need like a 252. We're going to set to level 50. Again, let me know if you guys have made it this far. Let me know. Say, I made it this far. And then put a random emoji or something. Let's go +1. And why is it set that way? Should be set to 50. If so, Tailwind clicked. There we go. All right. So what am I doing wrong here? Oh, I'm doing something wrong here. That's our +1 calc. There we go. All right, so we can take just a little bit of this speed out. All right, 236. And you could say you can still go 252, and there's nothing like wrong with that, so you don't lose to other speed ties on those mons. But I think it's fine to just go 236 Jolly. And then from there, we need to make sure that we don't have enough attack to where we're still getting our speed boost. So you can go all the way up to 184 there. That way we're still having our boost go to speed. And then from there, we just throw the rest in bulk. Roaring Moon is a really, really high base HP. And if we were to take a look at the format here, we see like physical, special, special, physical, physical. It's a mix of both. We're going to have Flying Terra, right? So we can pin Flutter Manes. We want to make sure, though, that we can actually KO Flutter Mane. We have how much attack right now? Sorry, we have 184, so 196. I just want to make sure. 196. Acrobatics. Just want to make sure we can actually KO Flutter with this, you know? See, all these calcs are pretty important, you know? These are, you gotta do this for like every single team. Yeah, Flutter Mane's dead. Cool. And another thing is like moves that are single target moves, or even moves that are AoE moves, like Earthquake. In singles, they do single target damage. You don't need to click this doubles box as often. But anyways, yeah, the Flutter's gone there. So I think what I would do then is probably just put most of my points in defense, because again, those revenge KO moves are very, 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 very popular. Let's actually check what bundle brings to the table though, and see how well we eat that. Because like we need to not die to like a bundle that's using Freeze Dry from Ice Terra. I think that's probably worth not dying to. Okay, so bundle. Let's plug in Freeze Dry and Ice Beam. So they don't KO either way, straight up. But if they go Ice Terra, they both KO. We want that one to not KO for sure. So that means probably going to end up putting a lot of these points. Let's see what will happen if we were to put like 68, 4, 4. 68 in Spadef. Now, we still die to the Ice Beam. I don't want to take any points out of attack, though, but we definitely don't die to Freeze Dry anymore. So I think that's fine. It's fine for now. You can also split it up a little bit, but like I'm okay with this. Yeah, I think it should be fine. And again, like on the rest of the team, as far as like the defense side, we have an Intimidate user if we need to intimidate things. This is just a very bulky Roaring Moon. As for the Urshifu, in singles, like I talked about, you can click this button. You want to be as fast as possible. You want to be as fast as possible, even if they're as fast as possible. So like, just because I have I just have a Scarf Urshi, they could also have a Scarf Urshi, and I don't want to lose those speed ties. So I'm just going to be full speed in every single situation. And that's basically that. Landorus, though, remember we were talking about like being able to outspeed their walls and stuff like that? The bar for that threshold is usually like 112 or 113. And usually Landorus is a very, very popular Pokemon. Let's take a look. We're already on Landorus. We can see a lot of recommended natures for Landorus. We don't have any recommended EV spreads, I don't think. Yeah, but realistically, as far as this format goes, I would say you need about 44. I'm going to go 52 to speed creep other Landorus, just so I can speed creep other Landorus, so I can guarantee get a move off if I have to. And then from there, you need enough attack to do the right amount of damage to the mons you want to hit with Earthquake. So let's go back over here. Let's plug in Landorus. Here we go. Landorus, and let's plug back in Flutter. Flutter is a very good bench hold for being able to KO things. And let's plug in like Earthquake. Now, Landorus is not really about dealing damage, but it'd be nice if this Earthquake could KO their Flutter, right? So we want that Earthquake to KO their Flutter. So a general Flutter, we KO that with 100 points, and I'm completely fine with that. 100 points adamant, good to go. And remember, your natures give a 10% boost to whatever stat they're in, so you usually want to put your natures in wherever your highest stats are. So a 10% boost to 145, let's just do it and show it to you. A 10% boost to that 145 right there goes from 65 to 81, right? That is 65 to 81, that's 16. Versus like, let's say if we put that over here, 100 to 10. So 16 points is more than 10, so we want to put that up here. And it's 100 points. And from there, since we already have our speed, we already have our attack, the rest of the points, you can just split up that extra 4 here and go 2v2. We have so many extra points here that we could put anywhere. And I'm going to put those in defense. Sorry, not defense, special defense, because we have an Intimidate to counteract that. So I'm just going to go like this, 100, 4, like easy Lando spread right here. You could probably argue that you might want a little bit more attack. Sorry, yeah, a little bit more attack, maybe a little bit extra defense. And so what we can also do is just go like 92 and go 12 here. And this is just a standard Lando spread. It's not going to be breaking the bank, but it's able to function correctly, able to throw off your opponent's calcs by about 5 or 6%, and it should be fine. For Flutter Main, I'm going to click the button, and that's what I want, but I want my HP up here. We're just using a Specs Flutter. Nothing special on this one. This is just a late game closer mon that has enough speed to outspeed other stuff and doesn't lose to other Flutters. Yes, we could go modest, but then like I don't want to lose speed ties to Shenpaos. I don't want to lose anything like that. We don't need to do Terras yet, so it's completely fine. As for Zapdos, this is a bit of a weird one. I actually like my Zapdoses on the slower side to be able to underspeed their land. I actually like soaking damage on Zapdos. I know this sounds like really, really weird, but I would recommend a Lando like Zapdos like this to underspeed their Landos so you can still roost correctly. Because if I were to have Zapdos and go for Roost and they read that and Earthquake me, I lose my flying typing and I die. I don't want that. I want to be able to underspeed them so I can also soak the damage and Volt Switch out correctly to get those pins. So that's just my opinion. And as for the Zap here, we want to make sure that Zapdos can actually KO the Urshifu. Now you can say, but your Zapdos is made to hit the Urshifu. And in reality, we're going to put most of our points in HP and defense, so we don't really need to care about that. And we have a Rocky Helmet. So we don't need to. I'd rather go for a bulky Zapdos that soaks damage and replies back and lets me pivot correctly than one that like tries to just KO them first. If I wanted something like that, I'd be using my Flutter Main for that role. So this is just how I like to play Zapdos. You know, if we were to take a look at Zapdos on the thread here, so like Roost, Hurricane, Volt Switch, a lot of people use Discharge. That is actually better than Thunderbolt. I will use using Discharge, I forgot. Usually when you use like Discharges and Lava Plumes a lot more in these formats. See common items, and we see common like abilities and common natures. See, a lot of people still run Zapdos very defensive, but they are right. Discharge is better in this format. 30% chance para, only a little bit less damage, so it's going to be good. So let's just plug in Zapdos. And their Urshi could have like a protective pads or like a punching over something, so we don't always know our Rocky Helmet will work. I just want to make sure that we can KO like Urshi Rapid Strike with like a Discharge, if we have to, right? So again, we go Discharge. And so we almost get that already. And we can actually still go with like, I still think it's probably the right idea to go Modest in this situation. And then Artie just gets it. They're just straight up gone. So yeah, I think that's fine. I'm going to go probably, I'm going to put 4 points because they're probably going to be leftovers. I'm going to go max out my HP stat since usually, like I always said, you want to max those out first. And then there's probably like heavy defense. There's actually nothing wrong with this. There's literally nothing wrong. Like I don't see an issue with this. This is what I want this Pokemon to do. So I'm totally okay with it. The last thing I would do is check the bundle matchup. Because bundle is like a mon that we want to make sure that we can't die to bundle. So we're probably going to take some points and like move it around to make sure we don't die to bundle. And do Freeze Dry. And Ice Beam. Alright, so we want to make sure we don't die to that. And also, maybe not that one. This is the one that we don't want to die to. And we haven't even put our HP in there. There we go. Cool. Alright, is it possible to like not die to this one? Only if we wanted to go careful. There's probably a way to make that work. Or sassy, sorry. Let's see if we make it work. We got time. We can do anything else. So we take away a lot of those points. All right, 180. Sorry, 1 sec. Yep, 180. And then how much damage would we lost the nature would we be able to do to Urshifu? Like how much damage do we need from special attack investment if we lose our nature there? Just want to see if it's even possible. Discharge, probably about like, it's probably gonna be about 100, maybe a little bit less. 76. Huh, we have exactly 76. Well, realistically, this lets us fight everything that Iron Bundle can throw at us, but now we don't have any investment in bulk on defense. I'm still fine with that. I'm down to try this. I'm down to try it. I think it's actually very good. So we can just like confidently use this Pokemon versus Iron Bundle, and there's no way they KO us at all. I like that a lot. We could also just like ignore like the bundle matchup and be like, yo, I can just like Terra away and not care. But like, I think this is fine. This is good. And as for the Cinderace, I think for Cinderace, because we're going to be sashed, you can click the button, similar to how Shampoo was in previous formats. You want to max out that HP, so you're doing as most damage as you can with counter. And I think it's fine. I think it's a good set. So this is a good looking team. Now we still have to do the Terras, right? So as far as the Terras go, what do we want to get done? What do we want to get done? I don't think there's an issue with double dipping your Pyro Ball here. But then, like, also, there might be something to be said for, like, going Dark Terra to be able to make sure we have a Sucker Punch, to make sure, like, a Dark Terra Sucker Punch could KO, like, a Flutter Mane. Let's see how much damage it does. And if that's the case, maybe we do want to go with something like Albero, but I don't think so. Maybe like it KOs Flutter Mane after like a Rock Stick or something. That could be actually very important to note. So it doesn't KO Flutter Mane. It does about half. See, I don't think Dark's worth it in that situation. Let's see, what other Terras could we go? We could probably go Water Terra, and that's probably the best that we're going to get here. And the reason we would want Water Terra is because against like Urshifu, if they go Surging Strikes just right into us because they know we're sashed, we can actually still soak that damage and then counter to get the KO. I like that better. Zapdos. A lot of people actually just keep the Electric Terra on Zapdos. I don't know if I want to keep it. I don't think we need to keep it. Talking about like what's popular. We have Hurricane. I don't mind Fire Terra, as weird as that sounds. I don't mind Water Terra either. But I don't want to go Water Terra on like everything. I think I might go Grass. No, it's sharing my Ice weakness. What is something that we're really afraid of? Not the Ursaluna. I think that most people just keep the Electric Terra on their Zap. But like, what's Zap's most common Terra? Water. Yeah, people go Water. Ice for people with Terra Blast. Steel, I've seen it. I don't agree with it. Fairy is unique, but we're not really weak to fighting or dark anyways. This would let us check Urshi Dark. I think that's worth it. That's unique enough. Fluttermane, we're going to be double dipping our Fairy Terra. Landorus will go Water. Don't want to add Water Terra on like all my mons either. You know what I mean? That's the thing. And as for this guy, I think we're going to double dip the Dark here. And this is definitely a double dip Dark guy. And as for this guy, we have Flying. So that's all the Terras here. Team's ready to go. And let's go play some games with this team. And hopefully it works. Alright, so that's a pretty weird looking team. Cresselia's weird, Valk's weird, Thorns is weird, so is the Roaring Moon. I think we're going to bring Cinderace in the middle. I think that we could probably open up with something a little bit more passive, something like Landorus, I would say is probably fine to get those rocks up, because a lot of those mons take big rocks damage as well. So Landorus plus Cinderace is good, and I think like a mon to close out in the back like a Flutter is probably correct. So let's do that. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gilmore here. Gilmore is what I'm thinking we're going to see. Yep. So what our plan is going to be to do is to actually like probably Earthquake, U-turn, do all that stuff, then bring out Cinderace and Court Change and have all the... They're going to set rocks and hazards up, and we're going to put them all back, and we're going to swap them. So we're just going to go Earthquake here. Yep. So we're going to get the rocks and like... Oh my gosh, this is so nice, bro. Toxic Debris. Oh, this is like the best thing ever. It's a happy birthday to me. Spiky Shield's fine. And we're just going to U-turn, bring in our Cinderace, bro. And then we're going to Court Change all those things over to them. Spiky Shield, they went for the double Spiky Shield, that's fine. Cool, so they got 2 layers of that up, and I get to go into my Cinderace. Now, we're going to take a lot of, like, poison and all the other stuff like that, that's fine. This forces them to have to bring out something that's faster as well, which, unless they have, like, Booster Roaring Moon, they don't outspeed. It's a speed tie otherwise with Cinderace. So let's see what we want to bring out here. Cress, Valk, that's fine. Court Change these, though. And then your last mon is going to be, like, absolutely destroyed by hazards. Quiver's fine. We have Volk. Sorry, not Volk. We have Lando and stuff like that, so we'll probably be alright. We're just going to go for a Pyro Ball here. Yeah, Quiver's fine. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Double Quiver. Wow, dude, the greed. The maximum greed. Yeah, because now, like, nice Quiver, bro. You can Quiver again if you want, but you got to start attacking sometime, right? Yeah, you donezo. Cinderace busted. What's his last mon? What is it? Bro. Oh, that's the coolest thing ever. I think the right play here is actually just a Pyro Ball to get damage in case they want to Dragon Dance. Because I can't do anything else. I'm going to die to the poison. And it punishes them for... Yeah, you got a speed boost. So, like, this, if they subbed here, this might be able to break their sub. Especially if they, like, Trash Dogs away or something like that. Bro, that was so sick. Yeah, they just go for the acrobatics, just straight up. So we just cycle Lando here and probably win. Oh yeah, dude, that just feels good. That just feels good. The Cinderace value. There's the Flying Terra. Crunch not doing that much. Cycle intimidates, so we can always come back in with our Lando and just never die. But now we can just kind of see what they're doing here, and we finally just we don't even need to do anything. They Trash Slides, we can just Power Gem. And we'll take those wins with Cinderace. Court Change, Counter, Pyro Ball, Flare Blitz, all those cool things. What did you guys think about this video? We made 2 Cinderace teams in a couple hours. We showed how it worked in VGC with Shampoo Dragonite, Torn, Urshifu, Fluttermane as teammates. And we also made it work in singles with Zapdos Flutter, Landorus, Urshifu, and Roaring Moon. What I really like about this little series, right, is that we're going to learn so much if we do these. I plan on doing these on stream, by the way. So if you guys want to join in live on stream and select Pokemon, I'm going to start every single stream by having the chat pick which Pokemon we build around. Think about stopping by the stream, Twitch TV/THATSAplusONE, link in the description of the video. I think that learning the strengths of both formats can make so much a difference in a player's like general skill level. You'll learn so much about respecting the team preview, the board state, how to like fluctuate with tempo, and like in that last game that we just kind of like played, right? Right. Obviously, a lot of you guys are VGC players, but in this situation, we're like, cool, rocks up, that's fine. Cool, hazards up, that's absolutely fine. This is going 100% according to plan. And then like, cool, Quiver Dance, still fine, right? Even if they took us out here, we would have just sent out Lando. A +1 Vault can't break that bulky Lando set that we made. They have to Quiver Dance multiple times, and if they do, they get taken out by the Cinderace, who's like just ready, able to mess them up with Pyro Ball. It's so good. It all goes together, and hopefully by allowing yourselves to experience how other formats work, you guys might also be able to level up. So if you guys like this series, you want to see more, you have some suggestions for Pokemon that we should build around that could work in both singles and doubles, let me know in the comments. And now for the final part. What format is Cinderace best in? I think Cinderace works very well in a Shinpao Dragonite core. I do really think that it does. I think it fills a niche that no other Pokemon can fill. Right? It's that like third dive buddy that those teams need to have a little bit of support, and it's hard. It covers up for the fact that like Shinpao Dragonite, Urshifu can get a little bit walled by things like Amoonguss and stuff like that. So I think it's very good in doubles, but in singles, it is literally the only Pokemon that can do that thing with court change. So it's really hard to say. I want you guys to let me know in the comments what format you think Cinderace is best in. I think Cinderace is best built in Battle Stadium singles. That's just because I think Cinderace as a Pokemon was made to be played more in singles. Court Change, one of its signature moves, is made for singles. But you can also like Court Change, you know, screens and other cool stuff. I don't know if you guys knew that. Court Change is like everything on the side. So you can let your opponent go at dual screens, but you're going to Cinderace and say, those are my dual screens now. So there's so many cool things you can do with it. I think Cinderace is better built in Battle Stadium singles, but that's just my opinion. And it obviously did work great in VGC. But there was that one VGC game we played where we didn't even really like need the Cinderace. So yeah, I'd say Cinderace is better in singles. And if you want to use Cinderace to its fullest potential, maybe think about playing some Battle Stadium or 6v6 singles. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. This video has been in the works for a while, and I plan on making a lot of them. So if you guys have suggestions, let me know in the comments. And other than that, peace out. I'll see you guys next time.